Amanda. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day hanging out with me. Today's video, I'm super excited because I'm sharing with you my top 5 palettes that I've been gravitating for the fall season. Right now, these are my absolute current favorites. I cannot stop reaching for them. I also have 3 honorable mentions. I almost did a top 10, but I couldn't really find 2 additional products that would justify it to be a top 10. Also, there will be a follow-up video to this video using each of these palettes and creating a fall-inspired look. Stay tuned, that will be in November. Literally, November is around the corner, which I'm acting over here like November is way far away, when realistically, it is not. If you're interested in seeing what my top palettes for fall are, definitely keep on watching. Before you jump in, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel before clicking off this video. I post new videos Monday through Friday of subscription unboxings, beauty hauls, first impressions, eyeshadow palette reviews, and more. Also, my November giveaway will be kicking off soon, and you must be subscribed in order to be entered. Also, in my eyes, I have the Huda Beauty Warm Brown Obsessions. I got this in my IPSY Ultimate, and I love it. This almost was a palette for fall, but I chose a different Huda palette. Spoiler alert, jumping ahead of myself. And then I'm testing out a SUVA Beauty liquid lipstick on the lips. I'm indifferent about this lipstick. It's a beautiful shade. It's just a little bit patchy. And I know dark shades like this, which are my go-to shades, are very tricky to formulate. Not all, a lot end up patchy. So I'm a little bit sad, but the formula is quite comfortable. Hopefully I can make it work. Maybe a gloss over it. I mean, this is 2 coats, so I don't know. I also zoomed out my camera a little bit. I've been testing out some new settings on my cameras. I feel a little bit more comfortable being zoomed out because I felt like it was too on my face because I wanted you guys to see what I was doing. But I also realized not everything was being captured properly. Like when I was holding up a palette, I had to put a lot of captions in just so you guys can follow along more clearly. Let's talk about the palettes. This is in no particular order. These are just my top 5. Not, this is number 1, this is number 2. These are all loved equally, for the most part, except one. Okay, maybe there is a number 5 palette. I have such a love-hate relationship with this palette. It is the Morphe 35M palette. I love the color story of this palette. It just screams, hell yeah, fall. But what I can't stand about it is the inconsistency of the mattes and shimmer formula. Some of the mattes blend out beautifully. They are not patchy. The pigment payoff is amazing. Now we have some shades in here like this purple, which swatches as if it were pigmented, but it is the patchiest shade to blend out and it looks like crap most of the time. Then you have this lime green shade which barely shows up. You're there forever to build it up. I have to give it to this palette because I have used it a couple times both in September and October, and you guys have commented love your eye look. Some of those looks came from this palette, so I did have to include it. We have oranges, purples, burgundy, green. We have almost all the fall colors. I know yellow is a missing fall shade, but that's where some of these limeish green inspired ones. This shade is deceiving. It mainly shows up green, even though it has a yellow shift to it. I do have mixed feelings about this. I mainly included this because of the color story, and if you have the patience. It is a palette you definitely have to be patient with to work on achieving your desired look. It's funny, I didn't revisit this palette until the fall. It's just kind of been sitting, taking the backseat because I really love my 35H palette. That's definitely like one of my favorite Morphe palettes of all time. And then 3503, I think I'm gonna try to revisit that one too. That also has a beautiful color story for fall. Let me know if you guys have this palette. What looks have you created with it? I love dipping the greens and the purples together. Makes a beautiful color combination. Another palette that I seem to be using a lot for some of my videos is the Glamlite Veggie Lovers. Oh my gosh, this palette definitely got me in to the green eyeshadow. Green has always been a color I've stayed away from. Nothing against the color green. I love it. I'm a Slytherin for crying out loud. I've always been intimidated by green eyeshadow. I would think I would be more intimidated by blue, but I've been using blue eyeshadow since high school. I don't know why. I always thought blue looked good on me when it probably looked like trash. Green was that color for me, just intimidating as hell. And I guess I just never knew a good technique how to make green look good. I mean, it probably still looks like I came out of Shrek Swamp, looking like a hot mess. This shimmer shade, Spinach, is one of my favorite green shades of all time. I love how it looks on the lid. It looks so good with basil and olive. We have a nice burgundy shade, Mushrooms. We also have Black Olives, which is a beautiful matte black to also give like a more grunge to it. And if I'm feeling a little bit more like Sprite or Sierra Mist, I'll dip into Garlic. I'm so impressed with Glamlite's formula formula. The Meat Lovers was also a good option for fall. More on the pinkier side, whereas this one definitely is more on the green side. I feel like I'm gonna tire out green with this palette, but I almost don't care. I just love the greens so much in this palette. The newest palette to my collection that is featured in this video is the Juvia's Place Nomad palette. I recently just uploaded my review and 2 looks using this, but I absolutely love this palette. This orange shade with no names and this olive is my go-to combination these days. And then I put this shimmer shade and boom, I'm done. I call it a day. That's all I need. And then brown to smoke it out. Okay, now I call it a day. If I want to do an all matte look, I'll take this yellow. Even though there are specks of glitter in it, it still shows up matte. So that's interesting. When you apply it, the glitters go away or don't show up, or it's just for show. I don't know. I can replace it with that and have an all matte look, and it's just stunning. I just love how this palette just has a beautiful grunge feel to it. I've thought about maybe trying to experiment a little bit more of maybe trying to use just these 3 shades, going across or going down and using these 3 shades. I think I would really struggle doing that idea with these 3, but the other combinations have me a little bit more inspired. I'm a huge fan of the Juvia's Place formula. I have not been let down by any of their palettes. It's very consistent between each palette with the mattes and the shimmers. Anytime Juvia's Place has a new palette release, I automatically add it to my list. I usually wait for it to come in Ulta. That way I can just look at the color story, compare amongst the other Juvia's Place palettes like my Warrior 3. I was on the fence about that because it looks so similar to Zulu, but I'm glad I bought it because I did a comparison and they are very different. And there is actually a palette, I forget what it's called. It's like a more green heavy palette that looks very similar to Nomad. I've thought about doing a comparison video of the 2. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if you would like the comparison. Also want to know why the pans are smaller in this one compared to other Juvia palettes, and these don't have names. This is the most recent palette. Next we have the Violet Voss Essentials palette. I actually did not think I would like this palette as much as I do. This reminds me of a smaller version, more travel friendly of the Violet Voss palette Like a Boss. And it has very similar shades to it. That's like probably the big sister palette of this one. This just screams fall. I just love all the different combinations I've done. I haven't been disappointed. This palette performs like all the other Violet Voss palettes that I have. Before we unveil the last palette, comment below which palette do you think is the last one in the top 5. Let's do our 3 honorable mentions. And quite frankly, I have not used one of these palettes, but when I purchased it, it looked like fall. I have it set aside with some other products to test out, and it's this ColourPop BYOB Already Curated palette. Not really sure what the name of it is, but it's just gorgeous. Look at it. These 2 shades, this black and orange, was the reason why I picked up this palette. And for $40, yeah, did I need another palette? No, but there's just so much I could do with this. I love this purple as well. This duochrome looks amazing. I could live without the pressed glitter. It will be okay, but I just could not stop staring at this palette. I thought it was gonna sell out a lot faster on ColourPop's website, but I think with ColourPop releasing so much, people were just like, another palette, we're good. And then they had the Smoke Show and then the Bye Bye Birdies. They had a lot. Might have been overlooked. I do love looking at the color story. I think it's gorgeous and I can't wait to test it on my eyes. This was one of my favorite palettes for the longest time, and when I picked it up, I could not stop using it. It is the Tarte Tartelette Toasted palette, and I bought it as a joke because my whole wedding week when we would go drink, I would joke saying that I'm toasted, I'm toasted. It became a thing that we were all toasted, and this palette came out around that time, and when they did the Sephora VIB sale, I ended up picking it up. We were actually on our honeymoon in Maui. They had a Sephora. You know, goes to Hawaii, goes to a Sephora. That sounds like me, right? And I could not stop playing with this palette. It was just gorgeous for everyday wear. It's a beautiful warm tone palette. This shade Flame, I am so close to hitting pan. There is such a dip in it, as well as Cashmere and Schmore. Simmer is my other favorite shimmer in this palette. I love Fireside for the outer V or the waterline. I love the Tartelette formula. I have the Tartelette and Blooms volumes 1 and 2. They're very consistent. They're super buttery, easy to blend. I tend to recommend Tartelette palettes as beginner palettes if you're just starting out in makeup because of the color story. It's really easy to work with. This palette just holds a special place in my heart. I could never get rid of this palette. Even if I hit pan on every single shade, I would still keep it just because of the constant reminder of toasted. And then the last honorable mention, I have the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions. I absolutely adore this palette. I feel like I don't use it nearly as much because of how small it is and it got lost in a drawer Oops. I made some changes. I pulled it out and put it on my vanity. I recently reorganized my makeup because it is a hot mess. If you were to see my vanity, you'd be like, how can you function? Everything's organized and how I can find the products. For some, it could be a very overwhelming mess. It's okay. I am a chaotic mess. The reason why I chose this over the warm browns is because I have a few more shimmers. A third of this palette is shimmers, whereas in warm browns, you only get the one shimmer. And I'm not one to do an all matte look. It's very rare when I will do one, so I need a little bit of shimmer. Even though these two shimmers look kind of the same, I'm so glad that I have them. If I run out of one, I have a backup. Easy as that. And it matches my lip color right now. I love Huda's formula. I kind of want to get more of her 9pan palettes. I would love to do a comparison between the ColourPop monochromatic ones. Y'all probably be like, that is not a fall palette, but it is. It is. And yes, it's the dang Naked Honey. I had to put it in. Y'all gonna tell me this ain't fall? Because it is. It is a brown, yellow grunge palette. It can work, especially with the shade Queen. This is such a fall mood. And Amber definitely has a more orange shift to it than it looks. So I had to include this in because I literally can't stop playing with this palette. I'm trying to be creative, use some other palettes, expand. I have hundreds of palettes, and what do I still gravitate towards? Naked freaking Honey. But that says something, at least to me. And I almost skipped over this because I thought it was gonna be lame. It is nothing new. I have all the shades, which I have some similar ones because I did compare it to Honey. I also still have to compare it to my Midas Lemonade. I just love this palette. And this video is just my top 5. So if it's not in your top 5, it's okay. I want to know what your top 5s are. Then maybe I purposely did leave it for number 1. Maybe because I do get the most use out of this palette. I try not to dip as hard in the pans because I don't want to run out of it, but I adore this freaking palette. It's just so pretty. It's totally fall. Yellow is one of the leaf changing colors, right? So here we go. Here's the yellow. These were my top 5 palettes for fall. I would love to know what palettes are your top favorites. Did we have any similar ones? Do we have very different ones? For me, it was definitely very hard to choose which ones because I tried to choose a range of different palettes that had different color stories, different formulas. So I felt like I had a very good diversity of palettes. That way they didn't have like the same color stories. I didn't want to be too repetitive, and I hope it was helpful in case if you are looking for a good palette for fall. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and if you don't, thank you for the view anyways, and I'll see you in the next video.